it's just not a project about a dockyard. I believe we have a responsibility, and I don't want to preempt any of our slides, but we want to do something awesome here. We want to do something that is environmentally friendly here. We want to do something that represents the great history, preserving it, making sure our country remains great. And our committee is really deeply committed to a phenomenal project, financially viable, something that we can all be proud of, that's sustainable for the environment. And so we put together a committee that is multifaceted, and we're just going to discuss with you some opportunities today. As you can see, we're going to go through our agenda, we're going to go through our welcome, which we just did, we're going to talk about our committee, the history, discuss our approach, how the ideas can be submitted, how the ideas will be evaluated, how can you get involved, and last but not least, a question and answer period. If you look at your watch, you'll see the time. We have a timekeeper. We're going to wrap this up by 12. Everybody's paying attention. Well done. Still up? Well done. Right? It's 11 o'clock in New York, so you're spot on. The Legacy Committee was formed to solicit, evaluate, and recommend a viable end-of-use opportunity for 9 acres of newly reclaimed land in the South Basin of Dockyard. Our aim is to select an idea that is viable, that is sustainable, and that ultimately creates a positive legacy for both Dockyard and Bermuda. We see this as an exciting opportunity for everyone in Bermuda and everyone involved to imagine our future. We want to encourage everyone's voice to be heard. So if I had to put a linchpin, this is something that we're passionate about. We want everyone, every stakeholder, everyone with an idea, an opportunity, a belief, passion, environment, sustainability, economic opportunity. We want everyone's ideas, their viewpoints, their beliefs to be heard. Just going through the committee. I'm just going to ask Andy to just stand up really quickly. Andy's representing the Bermuda Tourism Authority. Thank you, Andy. We have Adine. She's representing the Department of Planning. She's at the back waving her hand. We have Kurt representing the Department of Works and Engineering. Thank you, sir. Joanna, she's representing Wedco. She's on annual vacation leave, and she sends her apologies. We have Philip. He represents Wedco. He's a phenomenal architect. He's here as well. And we have Elena representing the National Museum of Bermuda. Thank you to the committee members. This is the team that has been working on this for the last just over a month, and we're thankful for their presence today. So the original plan for Cross Island was approved in 2009, but it was overturned in late 2015 because it had deficiencies in the environmental impact study. As a result, the committee that we just introduced was formed to assist in identifying a viable end-of-use opportunity for the land. In the interim, the Cross Island Committee will be used for the 2017 America's Cup. If we are successful in our second bid for the America's Cup, then it will go to the end of use in 2021. The Cross Island land reclamation process commenced in November of 2015, and it is set to be completed in July of 2016. The cost is $39 million. Let's talk about our approach. Transparent, we wanted to be consultative, and we wanted it to engage all the stakeholders in our community. It is very important that everyone in our community, as we said, should have a voice. Sometimes people have ideas, but they don't have the capacity or the finance to deliver or to implement. We still felt that it was important for their voice to be heard. So there are 2 phases. The first phase is the idea generation phase, thank you. And the subsequent part, or the part B, is the request for proposal generation. We are now soliciting ideas for the end of use for Cross Island from the public. This committee will then evaluate the ideas, and that will be put against some key evaluation criteria, and then we will identify who or what the chief ideas will be based on best practices. We would then, after the shortlisted ideas have been triaged and put into a specific order, we would then send the ideas, the triage, the limited, the chief ideas that we have, to REDCO. REDCO would have the ultimate approval. REDCO would then conduct the necessary due diligence and feasibility studies to determine the scope of the RFP process. Let's go through it again. All the ideas coming to us, we take all the ideas and we box them down, we synthesize them, we triage them down into the best ideas. We then take the best ideas that we have, we then give the best ideas to REDCO. REDCO will go through their process and they will create and develop a shortlisted process, and they will do due diligence on each of the ideas. They would do feasibility studies on each of the ideas, and then the RFP process will begin. First, let's go to the stages again. Stage 1, idea submission from the public, June 15th until July 31st. Our Facebook page has been very active. We press release went out to the press corps. People have been calling me, emailing me already from all across the world. I just was walking down Reed Street. A lady stopped me. Everybody's been emailing me. Everybody wants a water park, by the way. And people have been giving me and stopping the ideas. So what is the first thing that we know now? People are excited about this. The Facebook page, the Burn News, has generated ideas. If you go onto the YouTube of the video, you can see that it's had a significant amount of hits in 2 days. So we're trying to excite the public. We're trying to ignite the public. And this idea submission phase is officially from today, and that will end on July 31st. Stage 2, the ideas will be evaluated by the committee and that will go from July 31st and will end in mid-August. 3, the shortlisted ideas proposed to REDCO for approval, they will go to REDCO by the end of August. Stage 4, which we do not have a time process on, REDCO will get the ideas and they will manage the process for RFP and for the approved ideas. So, welcome, Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, apologies.
And so if I'm talking to Mr. Fogo, the average Bermudian gentleman, I want to talk to him about ideas. And so if somebody as the chairman was to speak to me about what do I want for this project, I want us to be excited about this. I want us to be passionate about ideas. So if somebody comes to me and said, we want to put a chicken shop there, you know what I'm excited about? That person cared enough about Bermuda to put an idea in. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to generate ideas, to get people thinking, to get people passionate about specific things. Of course we have specific criteria, but at this stage, we want every resident of Bermuda to have the opportunity to submit their idea, no matter what it is. We're trying to get everybody excited about Bermuda, passionate about having a say in what happens in Bermuda. Whether their idea is accepted or not, we want people to feel a part of the process by submitting their ideas. We want the ideas to be clear so we can understand them. We want the ideas to be relevant to the needs and to the scale of Bermuda. Ensure that your ideas consider the neighboring environments and the infrastructure. We obviously have a responsibility to the delicate infrastructure, whether it's the environment or whether it's the museum, the historical perspective of Dockyard. We have to keep this in our full mind. We are cognizant of the historic nature of Dockyard. We are cognizant of the environment, and any decision that we make with our stakeholders, we want to keep that in the forefront of our mind. This is the good part. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Yes? Any idea, we want to be able to consider it legitimately so. We want to have a set of criteria and to be able to look at each idea in its entirety. Don't worry about providing extensive details, business plans, drawings, diagrams, business cases. We just want to get the ideas and to be able to mux or triage those down. Don't worry about extensive financial plans. So you can leave your CFO, you can leave him at bay for right now. We just want to get the ideas and to consider them. How will the ideas be evaluated? Number one, economic. That it provides economic benefit to Bermuda. Environmental. It is sensitive to the environment and takes into consideration the historical significance of Dockyard and its marine habitat. Financial. It delivers a good ROI, return on the investment for Bermuda, and that it's financially viable. Social and cultural. It is connected to Bermuda's heritage and culture, and it provides social benefits for Bermuda. Structural, it is a good fit for the location, the physical site, and exposure to the weather and its elements. How can our ideas be submitted? Ideas will be accepted until the 31st of July, and they could be submitted in paper form. You can get the paper forms available at all of our post offices, at Deloitte offices, and at Bedco. So if you think about our post offices, we have them all over the island except for the couple that are closing soon. But we have, if a paper submission, they can go basically anywhere, get an idea, submit it back in. Our team will go on a semi-regular basis and pick them up. Or you can go to our online submission form at SurveyMonkey, and you can fill out the form. It's not rocket science, it's not complex, it's not like any form for American tax purposes. This is quite simple, and Nadi could do it. The paper submissions can be emailed to crossislands@deloitte.com, and they can be dropped off to the post offices, City Hall, Deloitte offices in Hamilton and Redco and Dockyard. There are no limits on the number of ideas that any one person can submit. I know it must be a nightmare for you to film this, I apologize. This is a conversation. This is interactive. This is a process dealing with our stakeholders, dealing with the community people, dealing with our environmental warriors. We want this to be a consultative process where everyone is involved. We want everybody to invest in the process. And I'll be the first to stick my hand in the air. I, as the chairman, don't want this to be an acrimonious process. I believe that we all have a legitimate belief and love in Bermuda, and we all have tactical areas of responsibility that we're passionate about. I want to meld all these areas that we're passionate about and to find an opportunity that is in the best interest of Bermuda. I'll give everyone my contact details. You can contact me morning, noon, or night. I will endeavor to give anything that you suggest my immediate attention and pass that on to my colleagues on the committee. But I don't want anybody to feel that as if they do not have a voice or that there are preconceived notions or preconceived ideas. We want to do something that we all 30 years from now could be exceedingly proud of. We're going to use social media to contribute to the discussion and talk about ideas. Please feel free to send the ideas to your family, to your networks, and to everyone. And I believe together, as is my primary submission, I believe together we can find a legitimate, solid opportunity for Cross Island and Dockyard. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the bulwark of our submissions on behalf of our committee. And it was done in record-breaking time, which means that we are available now. And I know it's hard to believe I don't have all the answers. And so we have a pretty crack team that's here, and we're gonna endeavor to give our best answers. Yes, ma'am. Can you tell us your name and which organization you're with, please?
Dr. Jamie Bacon. I'm the education officer at the Aquarium.
Yes, ma'am.
With the Zoo Society. Just a question: when it's up to WEDCO to do due diligence on all of the ideas that you then synthesize and submit, I would assume that they're going to need a lot of consultants. I mean, that's where I could see it.
Very good question. They have the services of Deloitte. Deloitte has a team. The majority of them are present today, and they will form the back of the house. They have a team that are going to do research. They're going to help out, and so Deloitte have been employed as consultants, and I believe they form a phenomenal resource in specific areas to help with the synthesizing and help with the RFP process.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Jessica Miller from Deloitte. So, for example, if the idea is a water park, an economic feasibility study would need to be done on that in addition to other things. And if the idea is something different where the land needed to be subdivided, then there would be different work that needed to be done to prepare for an RFP process. That would be completely different from if it were an LNG plant. There would need to be a lot of technical due diligence done. So we have no idea what due diligence needs to be done, and what would need to be done economically or in terms of planning or any other area. We won't know until we get there. So,
But I was gonna say, Wedco, if they were responsible solely on their own,
that's their responsibility. And I think something that's important is that this committee is a volunteer committee, and it's not appropriate for them to get involved in the procurement process of a public entity. So when the idea is fixed, then it's the public entity, it's WEDCO's responsibility to go forward with the procurement process.
Yes, ma'am.
Further to that, so is Wedco undertaking to finance all the feasibility studies for the number of, the short list themselves?
So typically the developer themselves would conduct the feasibility studies or pay for those to be conducted if it's done by a private developer. But again, until we know exactly what is planned to be put there, we won't know how that would work. But typically if it's a private developer doing it, it's their responsibility. They pay for feasibility studies.
And that they would come out of the RFP?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So question about the RFP process then.
So I'd love to interrupt. Can we just have, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop and understand who's in the room, so when we go back, we can say, okay, we heard from Best, okay, we heard from the education officer at
I'm with the Snoop Foundation.
Snoop.
Spirit Renewal.
Awesome.
Thank you.
My daughter loved it, so I'm gonna Snoop.
Henry Burgess, the Chamber of Commerce. And my question is about the RFP process. If I submit an idea which I think is somehow proprietary, and you like the idea, you then ask for an RFP on that particular idea. I don't actually get to fulfill that. Is that the?
I think we're trying to avoid this.
So at the end of the day, it's called an idea.
Yeah.
Yes, and so if you have an idea that's proprietary, we're making this that this is an idea for the country, and so you have to submit your idea if it's chosen, and if it's chosen. So if you say that you have some new invention, you have to be very careful how you put that in your 100 words or less. If it is
100 words or less. Okay.
So when you submit that, if it is chosen to go to the next round, yes, that's when you have to do your due diligence, put together everything on your end to make sure that it's protected. We're not going to take the responsibility of protecting anyone's idea if it is indeed proprietary. Make sure that it's going to the Library of Congress, making sure that it has all the records and patents. We're looking for ideas. Give us an idea, and if that idea is chosen, then when they pull out the RFP process, that's when the specialists in these areas, that's when the people that have the talent in these areas, right? That's when the people that have the expertise in these areas, that's when they come out the woodwork. And through the RFP process, we again synthesize who is the best person for the opportunity.
Yeah, I think if you look at it from the perspective of whether we were talking, Andy was. So someone saying, what's an idea, and they want to do a water park. Well, I think in our travels, we've seen some very interesting water parks. So while you're out there, maybe let's do a water park on the facility. You might have a specific water park idea, for the use of word, or theme that you may not submit in the idea stage. And then when the RFP comes out, you then submit this theme with all the works behind it. It could be a simple water park, like we've seen at the old Sonesta property some time ago, or it could be something that's sophisticated, something in Disney, not saying on that scale, but something you might see down that way. That's when the due diligence go further as to whether that's feasible or not on that space.
Stuart from Best.
Yes, from Best. First of all, I'm glad to hear you say you want a non-acrimonious process. And so I pledge to listen without being defensive, speak without being offensive, and disagree if necessary without being disagreeable. And you can adapt those ground rules, if you like. The last big landfills we did were the airport and Morgan's Point. And they still haven't recovered, although it's over 40 years since they were done. So this is not a small project, and its impact is likely to be large. By the way, I'm glad to see Deloitte involved as facilitators. We welcome that. So it's not an ordinary project. It's a huge 9 acres, a huge area. This means that, it means to me, that it's more than just adding on a room to a house or building, enclosing a porch. It's an enormous project and an extraordinary project. It should have an extraordinary process. Now, while BEST may not have contributions to what should go there, we'd like to make sure that the process, how we get there, is one that fulfills the need here. It was the process where this proposal stumbled prior to this, and we'd like to avoid that happening again. So consultation, as we see it, is more than just throwing out a fishing net for ideas. It really means people have to know what it is, what their criteria are. It seems to me you need to say more than this is going to cost us $39 million. You know, what's that based on? What are the details?
So let's break it down into pieces before you go ahead. First of all, we have a great respect for BEST and their work in Bermuda. Let's deal with that first. I think what BEST does is very necessary in Bermuda. I think with reference to this process, if you look at, we've held our hands up and said, we got a bit of this wrong, we're doing this differently. This is the first in the consultative process, yes? And what we want to do with the entire process is work with all of our stakeholders to make sure they keep our feet to the fire and to keep us honest. So the idea and the concept of understanding the money at this phase where the finances are going, cart horse. We're saying, let's get some ideas together. Let's look at the ideas in consultation with our key stakeholders. And when we make recommendations, we want to make recommendations on what it looks like in the environment. We don't know what the money, the costs are down the road. We just don't have those numbers. We don't know what that's going to look like. What we're doing in this phase, it's a basic thing what we're doing in this phase. We're saying to everyone in Bermuda, bring us your ideas. This is the idea phase. And no matter what the idea is, let us triage it down, work through the steps. Let's go through the steps with us. And at each step, we want you to hold our hand and give us direction. And all we're doing at this phase is getting the ideas. And as we go down, I think it's very important for us, and we have to be genuine in our idea to work with your team, to work with all the teams, to make sure we get the best result in the end. And that's why we're going to consult with our key stakeholders at every stage.
I think his point is well made. The reality is, at the end of the America's Cup, there will be a structure there. There will be some reclaimed land there, right? Mm-hmm. And the cost of that reclaimed land is in the public domain, and the Red Code talk about that sufficiently deeply. I think the point is made that's good to make, BEST is making, is that beyond that number, there needs to be further, and that's for Red Code to tell us. I think what we're trying to gather here is potentially what happens to that 9 acres. Absolutely. What does it look like post America's Cup and post the event? And so we're giving ourselves sufficient time to contemplate what those ideas are and get something going, because what we don't want to do is to think about this after the event, because there'll be a time we're going to actually find a way to add something else, as the chairman is saying, add something culturally for the country going forward as to how do we enhance the dockyard experience, wherever that may be. And that's what this exercise is meant to do, to add those ideas.
Good, well, so we're asking questions, and maybe you have answers that satisfy what you're interested in. But if you're going to look at the environmental, you want to do the best environmentally, it seems to me that there need to be an environmental impact assessment. Now, if that's going to happen further down the road, it would be beneficial for me to know it now so that I don't nag on that. Similarly, if you're going to concerned about the cultural, you want to do maybe part of that environmental impact assessment is a cultural impact assessment and an economic impact assessment. And as I say, if those are gonna happen down the road, that's good. It's good for us to know them now. Because if you don't want the public or members of the public to feel like they're not engaged in the process, we need to have a full sense of what the process is going to look like up front.
Mr. Hayward, can I ask a question on that point, please?
Yeah, I actually only have another
Okay,
couple of words to add.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're converting 9 acres of a diverse marine productivity area into 9 acres of a very narrow, because we're mainly looking at economic, very narrow terrestrial productivity. That diverse marine economy, it belonged to all of us. It's a public resource. We want to make sure that the public doesn't lose its resource into the narrow interests of a financial arrangement.
So if you don't mind, I think I don't want to I don't want, and I'm not suggesting for you to mischaracterize what the opportunity is. We're saying that it has to be for economic benefit. You spend $39 million, it has to be economically viable. But let's go back to the criteria, because I don't want to leave for you to have or to feel that this thing is all about money. Look at the criteria. Let's look at the environmental element of it. That's important to us. If you look at the social and cultural, the heritage part, yes, we want to make sure that it's connected to our heritage and to our culture. No matter what it is, we are highlighting to you what we want to focus on. It isn't just financial. It isn't just economic. We want to do something that we all can be proud of, and that's why you see these specific criteria that we're going to look at. We're going to work on a matrix that we can not just look financially. We want to look at the environment. We want to look at its financial viability, but we also want to connect it socially and culturally. We get it. We get it. And that's why I don't want you to have the misapprehension that this is 100% about money. It doesn't make sense for us just to stick something up there for money. Because if that was the case, we just ask one of the reinsurers to go up there and make the money. That's why it's very easy for us to stick a bank up there. That's just not the modus operandi of this particular committee.
Yes, and if you got that from what I said, then
No, I didn't.
I misspoke.
No, I didn't get that. I just wanted to
Sure.
share again that we're deeply committed to our pillars.
Yes, well,
So we're going to give you a couple minutes. We have a few more hands, but please continue.
I'm just about done.
Thank you.
We want to see the process that meets everybody's needs.
Sure.
And a comprehensive assessment of the impact, I think, is something that the public needs to know it's going to occur. I note that your committee doesn't have an environmentalist, anybody that I recognize from the NGO community, a representative. That says to me, or it could suggest, that the people who are making the decision are missing a piece of the pie, missing a piece of the puzzle. So I'd like to leave that with you there.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Jonathan Starling from Green Rock. To begin with, I just want to echo Best's commitment to a sustainability impact assessment for whatever idea we go for. But I have a question. You mentioned about these criteria. You're going to develop a matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to weight them differently? The different factors, are they going to be weighted equally, or how's that going to work?
They're going to be weighted different, but let me commit to this. We don't have that nailed down yet. Once we do, the second part of this process, everyone will be involved in it again. So for me to say this is what the weight is, it's just not genuine. This is the first meeting. We wanted to get the idea out of it because of the time continuum. We wanted to get the ideas in. When we get to the weighting process, this is a consulting process that's going to be ongoing. And so in the ongoing phase, let's put some ideas down and let's come back and get your ideas on what you think the numbers should look like.
That weighting, that would be consultative as well.
Absolutely.
Then come and say, all right.
Absolutely.
I have one question on the idea evaluation process, which I think is the next slide, or the one somewhere. Anyway, so it's July to June 15th to July 30th. Right. So at each stage, are you going to be transparent and come back to the public saying this is the number that we're
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is why we chose this.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool.
Absolutely. Again, why we have absolutely everyone that's on the board is a person that's committed. They're in no way involved with any of the financial ideas that are coming out. And we want everybody to be involved and ask questions. And I think we're all committed, and we say that in our meetings, to have Mr. and Mrs. Fogo involved in the process at every level.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Dom?
I'm just thinking about $35 million.
39.
cost, 39, sorry, $9 million cost. And I think Stuart made a good point in that originally that 9 acres was public. So what scares me a bit is that whatever ideas are accepted have to eventually pay back $39 million, which for the public, that doesn't quite seem fair. I mean, I don't want having to, you know, have that cost or that debt hanging over the heads. If we try and say, we want lots of things available for the youth up there, that may not make $39 million. It may be great culturally, but it, you know, I don't want that debt to have to be paid off.
Very fair comment, very fair comment. So,
I think we could spend time talking about the cost. There will be an inherent cost anyway, because the government's committed to doing this event, to the America's Cup event. That island's been placed, it's a cost of $39 million. If we do nothing, it's still a cost of $39 million to the taxpayer. We still have to cover the cost, because there is a commitment to funding that development. I think that the comments are well made, and then as we do the assessment, we have to entertain, or I think this is in my view, we have to entertain how we justify the $39 million post America's Cup. So we are doing this to host the village, then after that, it may be that when we've gone through all the ideas and we've consulted broadly and we've been very transparent with the community might decide that to absorb the $39 million as part of our tax contribution to America's Cup. And that's what comes out at the end of the day, that's what comes out. But we have to understand broadly and deeply what people want and where we should go. Otherwise, I don't think we're doing what we ought to be doing in terms of justifying the contribution that is going to make to the country going forward. And
I just want to get the historical perspective in place. It was WEDCO's intent to build this, to create this landfill, long before the America's Cup came along. The timing of it, however, was in question. There were all kinds of development companies in place and whatever was going to build. The America's Cup came along and we took the opportunity of a project that was going to happen and it will be utilized for. It has always been viewed as a short-term use. Now, as the chairman has said, there is the possibility, subject to some criteria, of AC-36, the next America's Cup, coming to Bermuda. And if it does, there is the possibility, maybe even probability, that it would occur on the same structure, same venue that has already been created. But this is a short-term use. The excitement of this is here is a 9-acre piece of land that is waiting for ideas and concepts.
Yes.
With respect, I think we're hearing a lot about the worrying of the process, instead of welcoming, embracing this extraordinary opportunity that is, when did we last have 9 acres in Bermuda that we're being asked as a people to come up with exciting, dynamic, dramatic ideas?
And
surely, if it is a project, a planning process will demand an EIA. All that process should be and will be in place, but let's at the moment encourage the widest, out-of-the-box, most dynamic thinking for ideas on the land, as opposed to saying, worrying that detail. Let's get it moving, let's get some ideas generated.
I think that's a great idea. I was hoping that we didn't have to pay off $39 million.
We do have to pay
we have
off,
to
we
pay
do.
it off, but I think what he's saying, it is a cost that's already there.
but before, so
I think that
as the moderator, as the moderator, what I want to do for this meeting, I want to do a couple of things. I see your hands here. I want to do a couple of things. we have hit some hot button elements of the project in this long term, and that's not lost on any of us. But I really want to see us focus on the idea generation phase. If in the idea generation phase, we can get our community excited about this, get some ideas, I actually want this project to give people hope. Yes, I literally want to give our country something that we could beat the drum about for once. Yes, we as a committee, we have to endeavor to do this thing right, and I think we have to do that. But I do not want us to complain about the hole in the donut. Let's just eat the donut for this meeting, get some ideas in, right? And then we're going to proceed on into. Yes, ma'am. Bermuda Sloop, I'm sorry for cutting your name.
Oh, no, I didn't have my hand
Oh,
up,
sorry.
sorry, I was
Yes,
just
uh,
waving my glass.
Sorry.
Just for a moment, I think it's fantastic, the consultation process and the generation of ideas, that's great, it is exciting. But just one little question, will any portion of the $39 million be drawn down by the revenues earned through the America's Cup? Or are they gonna get it rent-free? For, you know, and I don't mean that to sound sarcastic or facetious, but truly, there, I would imagine that the price tag of $39 million.
So, just to
Go
be
down.
very honest, I have no
Yeah.
detail on that. But again, what we can do is find out some further and better particulars. Our focus right now is actually not on the America's Cup phase at all. What we're gonna focus on is the idea generation phase, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the
Absolutely,
question.
fair comment. Monsieur,
You stated
can you state
earlier,
the news, your organization you live in?
hi, Stone Wilson, BermudaReal.com. You stated earlier that since the announcement of your appointment with this committee, that you've had tons of people email and suggest things. Can you just give me a snippet of some of the ideas you've heard,
Absolutely.
please?
Believe it or not, the one was for drug rehab. I had at least 17 with reference to a water park. I received a call, let's just say from one of our Arab friends from the Near East, and he was suggesting how can he get involved at hotel development, a community center. A few people have said restaurants, make it a restaurant village for McDonald's and the likes, where you can go, it's a village for restaurants. Someone talked about agro farming. Somebody sent me an email about agro farming, where you do like a salmon farm. Those are some of the ideas.
So
that
is it fair to say the water park is the,
Nope, that is very not fair to say.
what would you say the most popular idea?
I wouldn't say any most, but it's an idea. I mean, for me to quantify anything at this stage, if you came to me and said, if 6 people said that they wanted a chicken shop, I'm not gonna say the chicken shop's the lead idea, it's just people want a chicken shop.
Thank you.
It's not the greatest idea, but that's what I like chicken. Chicken meals for me.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add that I'm happy to be a part of the committee. In my past time with sustainable development, and I've actually also reached out to Mr. Hayward at best. And I am concerned about the environmental issues.
Sure.
And one of my ideas I looked at and I discussed with him was, we don't know, it could be a research center for Sargasso. Who knows? It could be anything that's really environmentally, beneficial. There are a lot of options like that that are not necessarily considered development like hotels, but they can be quite helpful and also, work out for the long term. So there's any ideas?
So I just want to do something really quick, Sally. When you look at Aideen, she represents planning in our country. She is the foremost expert in our country on everything to do with planning and how buildings, and she's very humble, but she leads our country with planning regulations. We have one of the leading historians and persons that run our museum in Bermuda. So this is our bench is deep. Yes, you look at Philip. Philip has a huge opportunity understanding the environment and working in that field. So, and I say this respectfully, the notion that we do not have a board that is focused on Bermuda, understands the environment, understands the historical significance, understands the planning requirements, I think we do. And if you look at the board, Andy is the Chief Investment Officer for the Department of Tourism. This is what he does for us globally, all around the world, looking at opportunities. What's feasible? How do we get more people to come to Bermuda? So when you look at the board, we have Kirk. Kirk is a formidable expert who works in injury planning. What do things look like? So when you look at the board, I think we have an opportunity here to have a diverse board and people that understand where we need and have specific areas of speciality. Are there any more questions? Yes, sir.
Kevin Richards, Bermuda Business Development Agency. I know we've only got 10 minutes left, and we've got a broad cross-section of people in the room. What would you like us to do to help?
Oh, mercy. Listen, you are the guy. Question everything. So, the reason why that's a phenomenal question, because we are so used to organizations of exclusion. Yes, everyone has a view and they go to their polar opposite or they go to the corner. What we're looking to do, we're looking to engage everyone, ideas, forward it around, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, looking to get all our stakeholders together. We want everyone get their trumpet out, get their drum out, and say, listen, we're looking for legitimate ideas. Yes, everyone, and I'm not speaking to any idea, but if everyone limits themselves to a view of a water park, we never get to the Sargasso research center that might be economically viable. We don't look at the opportunities for us to do all sorts of research. So we need to get a cross-section of people excited about this and bring so many different ideas to the forebear that we have a good knowledge base. And we're not going to get that with, no disrespect, just our committee. Whilst we do have a diverse committee, we need everyone in Bermuda not just coming up with the parameters, but coming with the ideas. We have to excite our country about ideas. We have to take a country that we're so limited in everything, we're so polarized. This is an opportunity for us to say, how can we change the future of our country with this 9 acres? I'm crazy enough to believe that this positive thinking, this stuff working together, this could set the island ablaze. Yeah, and we need your help to go back to your respective corners and to spread that message. Sir.
Thanks, Chairman. So, having listened to the Q&A period and your presentation, it strikes me that we need a strength and weaknesses analysis, a SWOT analysis, that will help us to navigate through what is a very similar kind of acreage that, as Stuart indicated, we already have in the country. The airport we're claiming, Morgan's Point we're claiming, and this adds a third lot. And so that we're not competing. Both of those areas of land are seeking the very same kinds of ideas for development. And whether we should let Dockyard become a wholly different piece of acreage for different kinds of development, or whether it should just line up and become yet another Morgan's Point type of hotel.
So let me actually stick a pin in for a second.
So the strength and weaknesses analysis is going to be important to drive the ideas that you're
let's just stay there for a second. Yes. The horse has left the stables. We're going to do something on this land. Yes. So we're not going back to what that's going to look like. Whatever they're doing in Morgan's Point, whatever they're doing at the airport, those are matters for whomever is running those organizations. Yes. Redco has they have a consultant. They have put together a committee. The committee has been tasked with getting 9 acres that across Bay and Dockyard, and we've been tasked to get ideas. Our responsibility is to get ideas from all over. We're going to take these ideas, and these ideas, they're mocked on, synthesized, broken down, they go to a committee who will have a select idea. When you come in with your RFP, with your proposal, you have to do environmental surveys. You have to do how is that going to benefit the society. You have to do all that. So when the person comes in and they're ultimately going to be the benefactor of the contract, that's where all the heavy lifting gets done by that team. Our responsibility is to go to all our stakeholders, Mr. and Mrs. Fogo. I'm sorry for using Fogo. I know you're from Somerset, right? And so let's say Lister in Somerset, okay? We're going to say Mr. and Mr. Lister in Somerset. Our responsibility is to get everybody's ideas, get this into literally a small, synthesized, knockdown group of ideas that we believe are the strongest. We take these ideas and we give them to Redco after we do our rating process, which we're working on. They then put together a RFP process that goes out whatever surveys they need to do, environmental, everything that they need to do, that's how the RFP process goes. You will be familiar with the Bermuda government, how they have the body that looks at giving and awarding contracts. And I'm speaking outside my box, it will be something that will be akin to a legitimate process for procuring the RFP.
Yeah, but listen, what I'm driving at is
Sure.
seeking to drive both exciting and sustainable ideas.
Yes.
Ones that subscribe to economics and gentility towards the environment.
Mhm.
I believe that the nature of this reclaimed land that's reclaimed land, its location, and its nearness to the marine life, all need to be helping to inform the idea that will be sustainable, whether it needs to be aligned with the cruise ship terminal that's there, or aligned to the community, but there are lots of restaurants already there, so it's going to compete with other restaurants if we go with those kinds of ideas. There are a number of elements of alignments that the idea that's submits itself, that is part of this analysis that I'm thinking is necessary for informing the very best idea. The alignment will be driven by just the nature of the land, its location, and everything else. I'm putting that out there for your committee to either confirm or to indicate that these alignments or these analyses are going to assist you with the right kind of argument.
Sure.
Do you want to put up the criteria again, the objectives? Mr. Scott? When we look at these objectives, we have a lot of those things in mind. So for example, when you say there are a lot of restaurants already in Dockyard, or it's actually a working dockyard, there are a lot of light industrial uses there, and that makes certain land uses, more or less synergistic with what's adjacent. Those are things that we're going to take into account when we review all the ideas. What we don't want to do is make this so detailed that we take the creativity out of people's thinking. So we'll have more detailed criteria to assess ideas, and we'll be happy to share those. But when we ask people for ideas, we want to make sure that they're being really open-minded and creative, and then we'll do the more detailed work when we review the ideas. But we agree with you completely that it's not just about the big ideas, but it's also about making sure they fit in that location and that they're that they're viable in many ways. I would agree with you completely.
So we have 2 more questions in 5 minutes, sir.
Hi, Charles Dunstan, you represent the construction industry. Made a great presentation. I love the energy, I love the transparency. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. In getting the message out to our members and all of our communities, do we just link them to your Facebook site? What's the best way to get this message out? To get all the information, the criteria and the objectives?
We're going to send an email with all of that to all of you so that it will have our Facebook page, the submission form that's online, how to contact us, so that you can have that. We would be really grateful if you could all send that to your stakeholders. Obviously, you can preface it with your own message, but whatever you can do to get this out to people, we appreciate. And I've already asked you to like our Facebook page, Charles, and I think you did. But please go on our Facebook page, and we'll be posting a lot more information on there too. And if any of you have information, so for example, Elena has sent us historic pictures of Royal Naval Dockyard, which is amazing to see. So we'll be trying to put all that up on our Facebook page so that everyone has access to that. And I think that goes back to Michael Scott's question about making sure people have enough information so that when you come up with an idea, it's based on a lot of information and not in a void.
Elena?
I just wanted to state that we purposely, sorry, Elena from the National Museum for the Community, that we purposely didn't use the term development so that we're not preconditioning people to think that it has to be a hotel development or a water park. And I really appreciate Dr. Bacon's comment that it is a public, if we did take away public property that everyone had access to. And so we are very conscious of that. I'm very conscious of that. And so, yeah, I just
I just want to say that I think, Mr. Scott, you make reference to, something going on at Morgan Point and competing sort of things. I think Wayne made reference, the chairman made reference to some of the work I'm doing. I just want people to know that there is an enormous degree of excitement externally about coming and doing something in Bermuda. An enormous. I mean, in the 2 years I've been at the authority, speaking to people overseas, people are wondering why things haven't happened in the tourism perspective and the development on this island. We're just seeing enough interest to do multiple things at the same time. This will generate significant excitement on the back of what's going to happen there and of what's going to be in the future. So that's why the chairman, you're getting flooded with ideas from external authorities with Air East, I think is it?
Yeah.
Air East. Because people are now, for right or wrong reasons, looking at Bermuda as a place to go visit, develop, invest, and live. So the work that we're doing, and that's dovetailed into this committee, and hopefully this is not the last committee for some development that we will have a look at, is going to continue. So any idea that you have for this, you can send it to Redco for other areas in the docket. I think you just need to boil the ideas in to us. We will then put them in a box, and they may not be appropriate for there, but it could be appropriate for somewhere else on the island. But this is the opportunity to tell this committee and Redco, and more generally the government, what you think you want to see on this island over the next 5, 10, 15 years, because we may not have always been forward thinking. That's what we want the island to look like. But I think given the enthusiasm we've had on the back of the America's Cup and where we're going in tourism, if we know forward, then we can begin to think more broadly and get more excited and stay excited about where we're going.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that's the real opportunity we have here, and hopefully, as the chairman has suggested, if we get 65,000 ideas coming through, that's a good problem to have, because it tells us that we actually think about what we want this place to look like.